Well, good evening and welcome to Super League Raw. As you can see, Derek's already getting in the spirit of things, as you would expect, nothing less from the man. And don't adjust your sets, he is with us. Yes, we're doing a bit of extra time this week, outstanding stuff. With me to get right into Degsy's ribs is, of course, Mr. Nixon and Mr. Sale. Good evening, gentlemen.
Good evening.
Good evening, guys.
And, welcome, Derek, to your second appearance. I hope you're looking forward to it.
Yeah, it's a better appearance tonight than it would have been last night because my downstairs structure ain't a good sight. I can tell you not to be hosting something like this film. I know you can't smell much on these computers, but it don't look good either.
Outstanding. Well, everybody's coming in. Josh Grams, good evening to you. Christopher Waterworth, good evening to you. Paul Hoffman, good evening to you. Robert Higson's with us, another member. Daniel Jones. Oh, sorry, that's Leon. Everybody wave to Leon. Leon is a young leopard that I had the privilege of sitting next to at the elimination playoff. Derek, a lovely young man.
Did you just say Robert Hicks was on then?
Robert Hicks? No.
Higson.
I thought we were on at them for a minute.
No, good Lord, no. Good
He's
evening.
got other things on his mind, Robert Hicks.
Absolutely. Good evening to Greg Roach. Andy Bibby's with us as well. Yeah, we'll keep giving shout outs. Later on in the show, don't do it now. Talk along like you normally do on every other show that we do, ladies and gentlemen. We will be giving you shout outs throughout the show. And later on, I'm sure we'll have a bit of time. If you've got a couple of questions you want to ask the Derek himself, then we will try and get a few of those to you as well. What we're going to do is just to settle in, we're going to pick up on a bit of news that has happened today. We'll just start the show in the usual fashion, and then we'll build up to Derek and his views on IMG, Super League as a whole, the future of the Leopards, of course, massive changeover in personnel for 2025. We'll get all of that done as well. But first things first, this has been announced today, the England squad. Let's just quickly go through the absentees in terms of who was in the original squad and who is no longer. Tyler Dupree misses out. Not really surprised about that. I think he's had a mediocre season by his standards. I think Thompson and the likes have outshone him quite considerably this year for the Wigan Warriors. No surprises, Herbie Farmoth is there. I'm looking forward to seeing Herbie on British soil. James Harrison, who's had a good season for the Wire, he misses out as well. The surprising one, Chris Hill, we'll get into that in a moment. Tom Johnston misses out. Knowles is still in there. Lees, Lewis, no Litton. I feel for Jez. I think he's had a good season as well. Marshall, you would expect. McMeekin in there as well. No Elliot Minchella. No Robbie Mulhern. I'm sure Derek Lawson would say about that one. Harry Newman is in the squad, and Samba you'd expect. Captain Hall is back. Victor Radley getting in over the likes of Elliot Minchella. Quality player, Radley, don't get me wrong, but that one sticks in the throat a little bit when you're leaving out Minchella the season he's had, I have to say. Harry Smith, you'd expect. Smithy's back on British soil, good to see. Thompson, no Wardle, he's pulled himself out of the squad with injury, is what the official word is on that. Wellsby, Williams and Young in there. So let's go through the absentees. Derek, I'll start with you. Why not? Robbie Mulhern left out for a once Leigh player in Chris Hill. This is a head scratcher for me.
Yeah, I've got to agree. I mean, I've got a lot of respect for Sean Wayne, rate him highly as a human being and more so as a coach. So he'll have his reasons, I'm sure. But for me, last time I spoke to Wayne around this kind of thing, in fact, last year, about him having a look at Robbie and what he thought of him. And he chucked him in the training squad and then he made it on from that. And I think he figured in the third game at the expense of Chris Hill. Chris is a friend of mine. He's been a great, great player. He's somebody who you can rely on 100%. He's really consistent. He's clean. He doesn't give away penalties. And he does his job well. But he's batting at the wrong end of his career. And if these international friendlies are about how we move forward towards World Cups and things, then, is Chris Hill going to figure in the next World Cup? I think Chris would tell you himself that's highly, highly unlikely. So, I get the experience that he's got, but there's other people in there that have got experience anyway. So I don't think that's what he needs to rely on. Huddersfield, haven't had the greatest of seasons. They'll say by themselves, and Chris missed parts of that as well. Whereas, Robbie's young. He's proved himself as one of the best middles when he's played. So really, really shocked. But then again, we seem to have been snubbed on pretty much everything this year. So, it doesn't really surprise us. Robbie and us will take it as motivation and all keep working hard.
Well, Robbie gets massive praise here. I mean, I think for me personally, pound for pound, well, not even pound for pound. I mean, as a prop forward, Steph, we applaud Robbie all the time. For me, over the course of the last 2 seasons, he's comfortably top 10. You'd argue he's in the top 5.
Right, yeah, definitely. I think out of the two, I think there's two that are real shocks for me, and that's Minchella and Mulhern. And it really is a head scratcher. Like, I completely agree with Derek, surprisingly. But you know, when you've had the season that Robbie's had, and don't forget he was injured earlier in the season and missed a few games. But I think the last 10 games or so, he's come into his own as probably, you know, one of the best props in Super League. And I just don't get why you would put. I mean, Chris Hill's quality, we know he's a quality player, but he's coming to the end of his career. You've got someone who's just really starting and coming to his prime in Robbie Mulhern. Why would you not, in a trial game, you know, it is a test match, but like we're saying, it's building up to the World Cup. Why would you not put Robbie in and see how he performs against these kind of players?
Yeah, and, you know, for me, not just Mulhern, Minchella. Minchella was, I'm sure Derek, when he was back in 2 to the loo last night, was keeping an eye on what we were doing. And, of course, you know, we said that Minchella was KR's man of the match in the final. He's had a phenomenal season, rightly in the dream team this year, no question. And, Greg, Ben Curry's in there. And I don't get me wrong, Ben's had a great season at loose forward, you know, transitioning into loose forward. He's had a great season. But he's not Minchella. I mean, I know that Benny's got a bit of versatility, but how can, you know, we're Warrington fans, how can Benny Curry get in over Minchella this season? I just don't get that.
I don't know whether, you know, they're thinking of playing him in the centres because Wardle's pulled out, maybe. But yeah, I mean, you know, Curry's had a great season. It's probably his best season for certainly since his really bad injury. But Minchella, you know, as I think as Derek said, we're supposed to be building to the next World Cup. And we're not going to build to the next World Cup playing players that aren't going to figure in the next World Cup, as far as I'm concerned. This was a big chance to blood some good young players like Robbie Mulhern, maybe put Minchella in there as well. Some other players that have just missed out. You know, there are plenty of youngsters in there. They've got Havard and people like that in there. But, you know, I just, yeah, it's as good a player as Chris Hill has been. It's a bit of a strange one for me, I must admit.
Well, I mean, all I'll say about Chris, obviously, we had him on in conversation. Champion fella, brilliant player. He's at the twilight of his career. You know, we've got nothing but love and respect for Chris Hill as a player and what he's done for the sport. If Sean's picked him because, you know, an experienced head in the camp, then don't pick him in the 21. Just let him come along for the ride and put a younger player in there so that they can get a bit of tutelage from the man. That's what I'd do. I mean, if Chris Hill doesn't play, what a waste of a squad spot that is, because, you know, they could have got him to nurture behind the scenes and allowed another person in the camp. It's going to be interesting on that one. But yeah, no Minchella, big blow that. Robbie, I think, should have got a nod in there as well. Apart from that, pretty much what we'd expect. Is that what we're saying?
The Minchella one surprises me, you know, because, you know, Wayne likes to play it tough. He likes physical people, physical athletes, you know, that play it tough. And there's no doubt about it that's what he does. I thought it was a big loss for him, you know, and they didn't have him in the semi-final, and they might have come short, but they didn't, and they got through and they risked it because they knew he was that important on appealing and then appealing the appeal, which could have backfired. So that's how important he is to an OKR team that finished second. You know, he can arguably give a couple of things away that when you're trying to be squeaky clean, but that's about Wayne coaching him. That's about Wayne instilling that in him, because without doubt he's a big physical player who is a leader as well. So I was really shocked by that one and the Robbie one. And, you know, the only middle for me in there that I would have, you know, not argued, or I would have said, okay, fair enough, maybe, would be Luke Thompson. But after that, or alongside that, you know, I would have Robbie Mulhern in there. And that's not just speaking as a League fan.
No, look, his stats back it all up. Against Saints, his runs from the back fence against Saints in round 27 were just colossal. Simon Shaw there, too many loose forwards to get Minchella in. The argument is Minchella should have been one of those that are in. That's the argument.
Sorry, Dave. Andy Bibby makes a good point in the chat that maybe Sean Wayne hasn't got a honeymoon period because of the last World Cup. And Andy Bibby seems to think he's skating on thin ice. I don't know what you think about that with Sean Wayne skating on thin ice.
I wouldn't have thought so. Personally, Derek, would you?
I think I can. I mean, I think that's a good point. You know, I wouldn't think Sean views anything as skating on thin ice, but a lot of people, you know, kind of thought that was that when we lost to Samoa, and Samoa a hell of a team. So it's a good point. He's not afforded any space, and people will start looking into that. You know, we all want results. We all want wins. We're all thinking, well, if we can't beat them now, how are we going to beat them then? So maybe he does feel the pressure of going with something that he believes can get the win, and then he can work on from that. So it's a valid point, that one. I like it.
Yeah, I mean, I think for me, what we need to look at here, I mean, think of Southgate at England in the football. They gave him plenty of competitions to build. And one thing that all the players say about Sean Wayne is how much they value him as a coach. So there's obviously a bit of a feel-good factor there. And I think he's probably done just about enough to get through and have another crack at it. But hey, nothing's guaranteed in rugby league, or as we know, and contracts are one of those things as well, as Derek said before we came on air. Craig Forth, another member, he's just basically saying, you know, he'd have thought that we'd have gone for some youth in this. It's not, doesn't mean an awful lot. So why not give the up and coming players a go? I completely and utterly agree with that as well. Keep those those chats coming. Right, let's get Derek's take on the Super League 2024. We'll go to 25 later. Season 2024, not necessarily the league one at the moment. We'll come to that in a moment. But as a competition, Derek, this year, it's been an exciting competition. I think the playoffs have served up some wonderful games along the way. I thought the final was really well contested. Quite a lot of golden point games throughout the season as well. Some real tight ones. A little draw in there as well that might stick in the throat. But all in all, a good season. What's your take on 2024 as a product, and have we moved forward this year, do you believe?
I think we've 100% moved forward just by how close and contested the games have been. The big problem with rugby league over many years has been the blowout scores, and especially when the Sky Plus whatever you can record games, Sky Go whatever it was originally called, and you'd be sat at work, and before that, if Wigan was playing Saints, you'd make sure you got home to watch that game. Not being disrespectful here, because it's using the wrong team in the present formula. But back then, if it had been Wigan playing Salford, you wouldn't have bothered, because there's other things you can do. You're not bothered. It's going to be 40-0, or it might be 46, or it might be 58. Whereas now, as you said, we've had golden point games. We've had a draw in there after 10 minutes of extra time, which, as it happens, you thought at the time it could have been a problem for us. But actually, that 1 point I said at the time was as good as 2, because it made the difference. Arguably, we'd have played Salford at home instead of away, but it would have still been the same outcome. We beat Salford anyway. So I think it's been ultra competitive, and I think the playoff series in particular, our game against St Helens was a real standout for me. Not the one where we put a lot of points on them, but the one that got us into the playoffs. I thought that was real Super League semi-final, grand final standard rugby. It was a real contest. The one against Salford away was, and I think we've seen some big crowds, some big atmospheres, and in all honesty, for my opinion, for what it's worth, over the season, the right two teams contested the final, and unfortunately, the juggernaut that is Wigan Warriors put all to OKR, and my mate told me that it's 14,000 days more than since he last won a trophy, so I took some inspiration from that, and I'm 48 hours into a fast at the moment, because I thought, if they can do 14,000 days without a trophy, I can do 48 hours without food. And then my son just pointed out to me that they've got at least another 200 days before they can get to put that right. So to make it fair, I've just added another 24 hours. So I'm going to go for 72. Some challenge that, I know.
Fair play, massive, absolutely. Stu Melton in the chat. Hello, Stu. Enjoy coming to Leigh with KR this year. Great pub and entertainment. Elton John night was amazing. I mean, to be fair, David, you carried on that tradition this year. The whole theatre around it. We were there for the Warrington game as well. I think it was Queen that night. It really does add to it, doesn't it? I mean, you do put on a great spectacle, and the crowds this year. They haven't, even in what were the trying times when you had the injuries and things weren't going your way. It just goes to show how much the town are behind you, that the attendance stayed strong.
Yeah, I mean, interestingly enough, you mentioned an OKR fan there, the Elton John. We got a really lovely email from an OKR fan that said they'd never emailed anywhere before, but even including their own club. And just off memory, it went something along the lines that when they travel on the coach always gets there very early in anticipation of not wanting to be late for obvious reasons. And then they get to the grounds, and they've got young kids. Well, they said young, like young teens, as in early teens. And they don't really feel that comfortable in going in pubs around close to the ground and so on and so forth. And the fans are on outside, which other clubs do have, but everything was friendly. And then they went into the stadium early because obviously there's entertainment going on. And actually, what he said is chill. Well, it was the lady who wrote in. She said that her son had said, "I know that Derek's got loads of money, but getting Elton John on, how's he pulled that off?" Paying the tribute out was that good, which I mean, he was very good actually, but obviously a big difference between the real Elton John. So that's the kind of thing that really, it makes it more worthwhile when away fans think, I'm going to go to that game because, traveling over from Humberside on a Friday night, especially with kids, it's a big ask, is that. So if there's more to it than just a game of rugby, I think the fact they gave us the right old serving will have helped. But I think the writing for us, when we, Lammy says winning takes care of everything, and it does to an extent, and winning the Challenge Cup was massive in elevating our club. But we went from 2,113 members to 5,600 this year. That tells its own story. And then even though, as you point out, at the beginning of the season, I think we was 2 from 9 and languishing down third from bottom. So, they still came, we still got decent crowds, and we've still upped our average crowd. So if we'd have started better this year, I just wonder where we might have got to with it.
We were talking last night about Wigan. We gave them their just desserts, and rightly so, quadruple, phenomenal side. And we asked, exactly, you just got to applaud them, haven't you? So we'll ask you the similar questions that we asked ourselves last night. First and foremost, in the history of Super League, maybe beyond, where does this current Wigan squad sit from your perspective outside of Wigan in terms of their all-time squads and achievements?
Well, you're only as good as your last 40 minutes, never mind your last 80 minutes, aren't you? So that in itself speaks volumes. But if you expand beyond that and say, as good as your last season, nobody's done what's just been done. Is it the best squad or best team? I wouldn't say so, just in terms of entertainment, but in terms of achievement and in terms of what you're aiming to do. Matty Pete doesn't get paid, or Rads doesn't get paid for having the most expansive game of rugby. They get paid on success and achievement, and they've achieved every single thing. We had a bit of banter last year. Obviously, all the trophies was in the borough, albeit we had the Challenge Cup. And the council invited us down to the chambers there in Wigan, and was just championing that Wigan had got the League Leaders Shield and the Super League trophy. We had the Challenge Cup, and I joked to Rads after he spoke, and I said, I'm just looking here, we've got this Challenge Cup, what you guys won last year, and we've won it this year. And I'm just looking at them two beauties left on the table and wondering which one we'll take off you this year. None of them. And ironically, it's the only team. I mean, you've got to go back to 1983, the last time that Leigh won away at Wigan. But as Leigh Leopards, the only team we've not beat in our 2 years of existence is Wigan. And I think that's a testament to how serious they take us, that they bring that big game mentality against us. And that's taking nothing away from the fact that they lost away to Hull FC, because I watched that game and they scrambled like mad towards the end. So they certainly don't just give a game up. But I think the approach to it when they play us is massive. So on succession, I think that's what you've got to measure it as. You can't argue with the fact that it's the most successful squad in a season in the game, not just Wigan.
Yeah, and I think just thinking of opportunities, it must still grind on you the game at the back end of last year where you had them in your pocket, and that very dodgy decision at the back end of the and your face told 1,000 tales that night. You were livid. That was an opportunity lost, because that at the moment that's probably been your closest attempts at beating them, isn't it?
That's the only time, and they've beat us comprehensively, and I don't mind saying that. It's not disrespectful to me coach or our fans or our players. We're realists. When we lost 38-0 away in the semi-final, if Lammy sat down with me and saying, we should have won, this happened, that happened, you just lose any confidence. So we know what we see, and we know that they were just stronger than us, they were more physical than us, they were better in every department. We can take from that how many semi-finals we've played in a row, that we're playing away from home, that we're playing a side that's had a week off, that's ultra prepared. We can look at that. So we do draw hope from that game. I'll never forget it. Marcus Griffiths, was the guy up on the screen, and Liam's sent it up, and we're talking about inside shoulders, and you got to say, if you don't know what an inside shoulder is from an outside shoulder, then it's a bit of a tough gig to be as a referee. But I think the whole live call thing is the issue in and around all those things. There is other elements in the game. We can always look at the microscope, can't we, of one decision in a game that's wrong. In all fairness, there were other things that Wigan would argue in that game that weren't right, that weren't given for them or were given for us. So it's always going to be the big talking point. A little bit like the OKR Warrington semi-final. That was a massive boo-boo in my opinion. And whilst I'm a big fan of banter, I didn't think that really helps with the old Pinocchio thing. But there were plenty of moments after that for Warrington to win that game, and they didn't quite take them. So we can't just go on home in on that. In the end, the scoreboard and the newspapers the day after said Wigan won, and we have to accept that and be motivated by it. But we did show we can get close. And I think if you analyse what's so good about Wigan, it's, you take their best player out and the next best in ain't far from it. The difference between the best performance and the worst performance, there ain't that much between it. The strength and the depth and the quality that they've got all the way through is absolutely massive. And they can just grind teams out. I likened it to a snake killing its prey. I've watched it happen. It's boring. You sit there and it just doesn't move. It just squeezes the life out of something and sticks to its process and knows that in the end, that will achieve what it wants to do. You can sit and watch lions, cheetahs, leopards running around trying to catch things, and it's all very entertaining. And in the end, they don't get the same success. What Wigan have got, for me, is on top of that, they've got the X factor. In Bevan French in particular, I'd liken Wardle to that as well. Jaifield not as much, but that X factor of pace and Bevan French, who can just turn it on a sixpence. That game against us, he runs into a dead end. He's looking around wondering what to do. And I'm telling you, 9 out of 10 halfbacks there just go down and think, let's reset and get somebody else to a post. He just thinks, I'll do it on myself then, and dives in and gives you a Superman and a laugh at you. That's the big difference, and that's what we've got to try and match up. And I think Chesy's done a good job on recruiting this year. It'll give us a better chance once we blend that squad.
For those tuning in, it isn't David Attenborough, it is Derek Beaumont. A lot of cheaters and lions and all that kind of stuff coming out here. You mentioned Bevan French there. Again, we were talking about him last night. I mean, the try against you, the try against KR, the try in the final. I mean, we could just go on and on and on. Alex Sharp, one of our members, said that he's like a kid in a playground. He plays like he's playing in a playground. We asked this question of each other last night. I want to get your take on this. Of the imports that have come into our game, where does he rank now? And do you expect that he'll probably be the best import ever by the time he packs up at Wigan?
I mean, it's tough that, isn't it? Because you try and look back. I mean, I always remember Jamie Lyons at St. Helens being phenomenal. I don't know if anyone else mentioned him, but
have you paid him here, Steph? You paid him, haven't you?
I'm going to be that fiver after Derek, making me look good as a pundit.
I think, I mean, there's been so many great ones, but I'm somebody who measures things now, because I'm not a big person about the past. I'm more about what's going on now and how can we better it going forward in the future. I rate Bevan French in Super League at the moment without doubt the best player. I think he should be, he should be the face of it. We should really be championing it. We should be showing things. We look too many times for reasons not to give tries or to hold things back. We should be absolutely all over everything the guy does. So I would say right now, he's up there. I think we're bringing a player in next year in Davy Armstrong that is going to rival and challenge for that. Now, that puts a lot of pressure on that guy, and there'd be people with their ears pricked up thinking, what are you actually saying? But, you look at what that guy's done in the NRL, hat tricks and lengths of the field, against quality opposition like he'll face over here. And that's down for Lammy to blend. So he in my opinion, is the player to beat, and he's right up there for me.
Well, outstanding stuff. Let's get into the chat. A couple of comments that might just make you smile. Jack Collier, he said that you'd have been top 3 without your injuries this season. You're getting a bit of love from Alex Gibb. He says he loves you. Don't know what you're doing Valentine's Day, Derek, but Alex will take you out for a meal. No doubt about that whatsoever. Andy Bibby, he's saying that even though he's a wire, he didn't like your Centurion's name. He thought that Leopards is a stroke of genius. Good on him as well. He's there as well. So yeah, a couple of nice ones in there. For those who are joining us tonight, because Derek's with us, this is Super League Raw. We're very proud of what we bring. Every Tuesday night, 8 p.m, we bring you Super League Raw Weekly, where we get into the analysis of rugby league. We actually are very different to a lot of other podcasts, if you're only just joining us for the first time, because we love the game. We talk it up. We build it up. Yes, there's a lot, we can bore people for an hour and a half talking about all that's wrong with the game, but tell me any game that's not got everything right with it. What we do is we celebrate tries. We celebrate the gladiators on the field. We even celebrate Deggsy's jackets. That's how much we love the sport of rugby league. So maybe you want to join us 8 p.m. Tuesday nights. And look, there's loads that you can look forward to here at Super League Raw. Throughout the winter months, we're going to have an In Conversation series. They're the guests that are already lined up for that. As you'll see there, Matty P has said that he will do one of those as well. And just to give you a taster of In Conversation, I sat down this morning for the first time trying to get a referee to do an In Conversation. He said, tough gig, but all hail Aaron Moore, because he sat down with me this morning. What constitutes a penalty in the manner? I mean, is there an unwritten rule in terms of seconds that a player is allowed? I mean, we've explained dominant. So dominant, how many seconds are you giving for a dominant tackle before you would expect that player to get back onto the feet? And in a normal ruck, in your mind as your referee, have you got like a counter going on in your head that once they reach a certain count, sorry, I'm giving a penalty?
It's based on feel, really. So, if a team early on, someone might try to slow the ruck down, you'll probably get vocab in and say, Tom, I want it quicker in the ruck, because you think they're trying to go slow earlier. So you send the message out and you warn them. And then if it happens again, that's when you think, well, I've just warned them and I've got another slow ruck here. And that's when you set restart. And throughout the game, you're trying to manage and make the game as quick as possible and a good spectacle. And it's just making sure that you keep it quick. So it's all on feel. There's no kind of like set seconds, because you can't, in a game when you've got your tackle count and you're talking to players, you can't go 1, 2, 3, or they've been 3 seconds, it's too slow. You just kind of know. And as people would watching, you know if it's a slow ruck or not most of the time.
So there's a taster, and I did get into his ribs on some key points. And what was really good about Aaron, and we spoke about this, Derek, is that, the players get in front of the cameras, you get in front of the cameras. I said to Aaron, and he agreed with me, referees need to do more of this stuff, because the human beings, they make mistakes, we get that. And, they get a lot of abuse. I mean, in Conversation, there's a section in the show, I won't spoil it for people because I want you to watch it, where he talks about some of the social media abuse that he's had. We can't have a game without referees. Yeah, they get things wrong, but I think they've got to become human. And I think by Aaron, I mean, I've tried to get so many, I won't mention them, to come and do an In Convo. Aaron was the first to put his hand up and say, yeah, it's a brilliant hour. It shows how human he is. He talks about what it takes to be a rugby league referee. He talks about what goes through his minds at key decisions. It's a fascinating insight into refereeing. And if there's any kids out there as well, by watching that, he explains what his journey was to becoming a full-time referee. It's a brilliant, brilliant hour. Derek, do you think that referees should be, I mean, they've got heritage numbers after all. Shouldn't they, and I did have a chat with him about that, in case you're wondering, lads, and he did find that humorous and all. Should they get in front of the camera more, referees, just so that, just so that they show the human beings and build a little bit of confidence and trust from fans?
My opinion is, yeah. I've heard a lot of people say that they should be more inconspicuous. You shouldn't be about them. You shouldn't know the names. I mean, I watch, Man United, which ain't a great thing to be saying just here at the moment, but I don't really know the name of a Premiership football referee. But then I think rugby's completely different. So when I talk about that, I think what Aaron's alluding to there is what we call tempo, of the game, and it is feeling that tempo, and different refs will have different tempos, and you can't have the same tempo as, say, Chris Kendall got in the final. I think as you could say, for example, if Wigan was playing All FC there and they're trying to cling on, or if you've got a Championship side against the Super League side, I think where the issue is for referees is there's 34 players on a field and only one ref. Now, those 34 players collectively will make a lot more mistakes than that one ref. But the mistakes that the one ref makes are all apportioned to him. And when they're attributed to something that can have an impact on the game. Now, in football, if a ref gives a wrong decision, if it should have been their throw-in and he gives it the other team, or he gives a free kick that you think should have gone the other way, the ball is moving around. Possession is like instantly swapped. So it doesn't have that big of an impact. Obviously, the big decisions on penalties and, handballs, the key moments. But in rugby league, when we get those a little bit wrong, so there's too much open to interpretation. So Chris Kendall's 10s will be different than Aaron Moore's 10s. Aaron Moore's 10s in a game, and by the way, I'm not saying I definitely couldn't do this because they have no help in trying to get those 10s. I just come back from America and it says Janet and John as this. They have a guy stood with a lollipop stick setting where the 10 is for the first time. And somebody stood where the ball needs to be played. And then that guy puts his stick where the ball was. And now I know they've got time to do that because it's a first down or a second down and they reset. But that's the kind of thing they're trying to find live in the game and move. And the difficulty they'll always have is that their interpretation on an offside when they decide to give it is too consequential. And we can help them with this because you're saying that on play 5, let's just say Warrington, because you guys are Warrington fans, except for Steph, that on play 5, coming out of yardage, they like to get Dufty's hands on the ball in play 5, and more coaches have started doing that. Get a quick broke, and then you can get on the front foot with your kick. If you get given offside in them situations, I think that it is wrong that you go to tackle 0 and get to kick 30 metres out of me. And that's where that decision of offside is so massive. Whereas you might give that same thing on an earlier in the tackle count, or you don't give it at all, and we can freeze frame it and say, well, you didn't give that and you did give that. And it means that it looks, even though I don't believe for 1 minute that any ref is trying to do this, it looks like they're controlling the territory of the game and keeping it even, keeping it closer, because we all do want it closer. I think 2 things that will help them. Number 1 is captain's call, which I understand is coming in next year. I think that will help them because they'll have to be a little bit more sure or just don't make a decision, because once they make a decision, you can question the decision. If they've not made a decision, you can't start refereeing the game through your captains. And the second one is getting rid of the try, no try, because you're literally saying, yeah, mate, prove me wrong, go against me. And they're working together, So at the moment, you have to find evidence to say it's not. It should just be a simple one. Aaron should just say, can you just make sure that there's evidence that that's a try, please? And if you don't see evidence that it's a try, it ain't one. Because other than that, you might as well go and do what they do in American football I watched over there, which is once you're over the line, you've scored. It's not about double movement and all these things that we make to make it harder. So just going back to your initial question, I think people like Aaron, people like Liam, people like Chris, I went to where they was getting their heritage numbers last year. Mike Smales, who works for us now, who's just retired as a championship referee. They did a dinner and I did a bit of a 30-minute sort of comedy piss take, if you will, which they all took.
Oh, yellow card from Derek using the B word. What's going on here? No.
Honestly, nobody knew that Jack Smith had never refed us to a win, but Jack knew and I knew. And since then we've had a few, but I genuinely believe that they go out there to have their best game, and that they're self-critical, they analyse themselves, they have got personalities, they do get too much abuse, and I listen. I can shout like mad when I'm watching a game, and I try and channel it correctly, and I'll pepper Robert Hicks on the text messages. I used to pepper Ralph, but ultimately they're trying to do the best. So the more you can bring them to the fore of shows like this, the more that people like Aaron can explain his feel for the tempo and getting caught in the washing machine of where the 10s are. And just without going on too long here, just think about Aaron's job at the start of the game, right? So this is the very kickoff on the game, all the decisions he's got to make. So the ball's kicked. Was anybody stood in front of him when it was kicked? Was everybody on the defensive side behind the 10-metre line? If it's gone long, has it been caught cleanly? And if it's passed, has the pass gone forward have been okay? Contacts made, is it high? Is it okay? The tuck to ground on the floor, is it too long? Is it not? Is that okay? And the marker stood square as the guy stood up as he played the ball cleanly. Is everybody back 10 with me as it's passed? That's a hell of a lot of things for him to observe in 5 seconds and make decisions on. And that's just putting the job into a little bit of perspective.
Fantastic. So, yeah, I mean, look, it's well worth an hour of anybody's time. Derek, while you're on holiday on the sunbed, you might want to watch Aaron Moore in combo because nothing's left to chance. I talked to him about things like why does it take our referees longer to make a decision on the video ref than the NRL? Really, some proper stinging questions went into Aaron in the nicest possible way, and he answered them all. Well worth an hour of your time. That's what you get with Super League Raw. There's loads of good stuff coming down the pipe. Go and do that QR code. Consider becoming a part of the best growing community in rugby league. We are doing some great stuff. And on the 21st of January, we're going to do Super League Raw live. We'll probably get to Derek's ribs on that one a little bit later on in terms of maybe a guest appearance. But already we've got Earl Crabtree. He's going to be there in Warrington that night. We've also got a couple of Warrington lads that are going to come down. May even have Paul Rowley as well. That'd be interesting. So, yeah, there's a few people that we're thinking of getting down for that. Super League Raw live. Great night. Keep your eyes out for that. Like I say, never been a better time to be a part of Super League Raw. Do the QR code. For those who have only just joined us tonight, at the very least, tune in every Tuesday at 8 p.m. You don't want to miss a bit of weekly, do you, Steph? You really. Right, before we get into IMG, because that's where we're going next, I just want to pay tribute, and I'm sure Mr. Beaumont's going to love this. I just want to pay tribute to people that will forever remain in the heart of the man that you see on the screen tonight.
One thing I'll never forget about what this guy did for us. You don't get to a final unless you win a semi-final.
On the opponent's line, Holmes worked his magic, and only Holmes will finish it off.
I just want to thank you for all the support. All you people here will have a special place in my heart, but not only my heart, my wife and kids' heart as well. So much love, everyone.
And Moylan, and a lovely sleight of hand and foot, and the telly finishes it off. That is as classy a try as you will see in any round of the Super League. And when it's delivered on the last night, when it matters so much, that is brilliant.
I want to say thank you. Just for the minute I started at Leigh, made me feel like it was home. Me and the family have absolutely loved it the last 2 years, especially last year. But we're on a special journey again this year, and you know where we'll be. But I've had a fantastic time. Thank you for making me feel welcome. Thank you.
He's found the gap here. He's got Hardacre in support, and Hardacre will put the game to bed.
You're the best ever, best man in the world. I love you all.
Kai, you absolutely run the ball like you don't give a care in the world about your body. But every time you get the ball, you've got a special relationship with Lockie Lamb. We can see that on the field. We can never thank you enough for what you've done, and we wish you every success in the NRL, Kai.
Brilliant here is O'Donnell, the dangerous O'Donnell. O'Donnell going for the line himself. Kai O'Donnell has been a Super League superstar.
I know how much this time means to you, and I know how hard it is for you to leave it. You absolutely will always have a special place in this club, and nobody here will ever have a bad word to say about you. You're one of the best human beings that I've ever met in this world, let alone this game of rugby.
I'm very, very grateful for this opportunity to be able to put on this jersey, to be able to represent you guys for the last 3 years. What an incredible group. I'm very grateful to be a part of this team, from the championships up to winning the Challenge Cup.
And he could not have timed it better on what might be his last Leigh appearance. Who knows?
Just want to say thank you for everything over the last 3 years. I'm going to miss playing with these boys. I love them so much, and hopefully come back in a few years from now. So we'll see what happens.
He's been one of the standout prop forwards in the competition. Ball running, gap opens up for Tom Amone. He's going for the line, and Tom Amone has just bulldozed his way through. Your pass, they're too strong, they're over.
There's a tribute, Super League Raw style. Derek, you know these men. You know them intimately well. You've given them a chance in Super League. When you watch that, what is your overriding emotion?
Oh, one of joy and pride. I mean, super proud of them guys. That was a fantastic piece of ET, that, by the way. Brilliantly edited.
I got a job at the Leopards when I applied for one, but that's another story. Carry on.
Oh, you were probably too expensive, mate. Looking at that.
Got to pay for quality, Derek, as you know.
It's a great blend, and you know what? There's some absolute great guys in there. And if you asked me to pick a favourite, it'd be almost impossible. I likened it at our awards evening on Thursday night. I mean, I gave Tom Amon my infamous leopard jacket, the one what it all started with on that opening night with the Scouting for Girls and Fuel Girls, etc. Because I've just seen what it means to him, but he's just so humble, an absolutely beautiful human being. You wouldn't think, speaking to him, that he played rugby, especially not the way that he does. Zach Hardacre, absolute out-and-out competitor, and 4 tackles he made back-to-back in that Challenge Cup final is as big a moment as Lockie Lamb. You showed the try there that Oggy Holmes, you don't get to the final without that. John Asiata, he's going to be massive for Hull FC. He really is. And that's why I'm keeping my Beaumont that they make from down there 70. I've had that for years, and he will, and I'll support John in there because he's an absolute outstanding human being. But that part of Kai O'Donnell wanting to play with a tear in his ribs, he was insisting to me that he signed a waiver and played in that semi-final, and that he wasn't happy with our doctor's opinion, so I needed to find a different doctor with a different opinion. And I had to say, Kai, if I found a doctor with a different opinion, I'd have reported to medical standards because you can't play. But this is how much they all wanted to achieve that final thing. And it's the end of this film, or this season of a series, if you will, that seems to be the norm now on Netflix. And I genuinely thought that it was going to be a case that we never made anything about that massive success in the Challenge Cup, and we've got all the VT for it. I'm sure if we sat down and spent a few weeks with it all, and we could make a fabulous documentary on it. And the plan is probably to do it. And I felt that we hadn't, because there was more to that story. But that clearly comes to an end now. And one thing I would like to just say in there is, I'd like to pay a massive respect to Adrian Lamb in and amongst that, because a lot of those players that joined us in the Championship, Tom Amon came over in the Championship without a club, and he was doing 20 minutes off the bench in the Championship, and he's playing 70 minutes as a starting front rower at the top end of Super League in the Dream Team. John, similarly with the issues in and around COVID. Kai, unknown. And if our club is a club that some of the people who are just on the fringe, if you look at, say, an Armstrong, because they've got great people in front of them, and they think, I'm going to come to Leigh, because that lot, Adrian Lamb, he will make something more out of me, and I'll go away from that club with fresh eyes on me and get to where I want to get in my career and in my life quicker doing it. I'm comfortable being that, but some special people leave, and some new people will take the places, and we'll rewrite the next series.
Yeah, what a great bunch of lads. And, as people know, I've got a big Be The Road brigade. I'm well known in the borough of Leigh for in the sheds and what have you. I have to say, outside of Warrington, Tom Amon's been my favourite player over the last 2 years. I just think the man I love forwards. I love what they do. I love the purity of the job. Run hard, tackle, bust, offload, get the odd try if you can. Tom Amon, for me, arguably the number one prop forward for the last 2 seasons, without any shadow of a doubt. He's a massive miss, but he did hint of a potential return. I'm sure the red carpet will be open, won't it?
100%, mate.
Yeah.
I told Tom it's my. He was absolutely. He won't mind me saying he was absolutely hammered at the awards evening, and it was good to be able to do it at that time when the lads could enjoy it with the sponsors and everybody on the tables, and it was quite emotional. And he came over and he's apologising. I said, mate, don't apologise. I'd want you to apologise if you weren't hammered. There's a free bar on. Get it smashed. So the following morning, he's messaging me. And he's like, I'm really sorry, Tolko. He's like, Tolko, I'm really sorry. I was loud last night. I was hammered. And I've got your jacket here. I've kept it safe. Let me know where I've got to drop it off. I said, you've got to take it home with you, mate. And I'll come and get a picture of you wearing that in the NRL when you're playing. And that's the kind of story. He'll always have a special place in my heart and our club's heart, as will all of them. I got a lovely message off Zach Hardacre today. He's just an out-and-out competitor. He's one of those. Very often in life, if you look at your George Bests, your Robbie Williams, your Elvises, your Michael Jacksons, you go through sport and entertainment. Those that are kind of the most sort of special or talented tend to be the ones that also have difficulties in dealing with that. And Zach's one of those. And I think people are just too quick to try and jump on any of his issues. He's an absolute cracking bloke with an art of goal. He'll compete with you at Tiddlywinks. And all of them have got a special place in our art. And if Tom Amon picked up the phone and said, I want to come back, this hasn't worked out, I'm pretty certain that Chesney, Adrian would be coming to me and saying, can we have a few more quick exit? And it'd be yes, without a doubt.
It's the floor of genius, I think is what they call it. The floor of genius. But look, I mean, the Leigh Leopards club, I mean, especially Tom Amon, Kai O'Donnell, they've turned them into genuine, they are Super League superstars, but genuine NRL competitors. And even John's indebted to you for a 230 grand contract. I mean, fair play to John. We'll probably get to that later. But cracking job from the Leigh Leopards. Brilliant recruit. Whoever your scout is, let's hope they've worked the magic once more with the new crop, which we'll get to in a little bit. We'll talk about the future of Leigh Leopards at the end of the show. But now let's move on. Let's move on to IMG. This was an interesting graphic that came out today that I saw on various places. So we'll just have a quick look at that. Now, I don't know how much you want to talk about it, but I keep my ear to the ground. A lot of money's been spent on IMG. By all accounts, a lot of I can't remember how much it was per club, about 50 grand, I think I've heard, per club to get free advice on social media. And I saw the ULKR, I think it was the ULKR chairman came out and said he's a little bit disappointed that all their hard work and effort IMG are taking credit for. I mean, look, the stats are the stats. The argument would be that had they just, had the criteria to come out, would these have naturally happened anyway? Clearly some impressive numbers in there. There's no doubt about it. Derek, I've seen a few bits from you over the course of the season. I think you went on record and said that the IMG deal, as you understood it, was not as it was. I think I read an article on that where when the fine print, the service level agreement, all that kind of stuff came out, you were quite surprised by it. IMG, I think Cal Fitzpatrick at Warren said, must do better. What's Derek's view on IMG, both in terms of this season and what you know of for seasons to come?
I'll start with the graphic that you threw up there. That's my kind of advertising and marketing. You just need to see the big numbers, shout out what it is I'm selling, how much I'm selling it for, and how I buy it. And those are big, bold numbers. To put it into perspective, I agree with some where Fitz, must be better. OKR saying they feel like the credit for their hard work is being taken from somewhere else. If you're gonna measure IMG, then there's a couple of things I would say. So driving standards is critical. Okay, so I'm fully supporting of any model that wants us to drive our standards and be better. Now, we were very close on how that could have gone. We knew we'd lost the Challenge Cup, so we had to drive our participation. We couldn't get the average 7,500 fans because our stadium isn't big enough to negate the championship one. So without getting into too much detail just yet on ours, we needed the utilisation score to go up by round about the 0.25 that we would lose from the Challenge Cup, plus a couple of other things. And then the massive shift was in my financial manoeuvres, which I'll speak to you separately about, to get there. So we undoubtedly did things that improved our club and the numbers that came through the door off the back of the pressure associated with IMG. So that's a positive. If we look at two clubs outside of my club, one that says everything that is good about what you're trying to do with IMG, and then one that's the complete opposite. And I say it as it is, as you know. Castleford, this time last year, I went to the Maldives and I couldn't get told our score. I'm going again on Friday, and that's when things are going to come out on Tuesday. So it's the same old thing. I wrote a positive press release for being in Super League and one for being just outside. I knew that our score was roughly what we were thinking it was. That's all they would tell me. I'm not going to get a big disaster. What I think I've got is what we more or less have, give or take. And that if it didn't put us in the 12, it was as good as. So I knew we were where we needed to be. We're not going to get a disaster story. And I knew I could make a lot of difference on the finances in the real year when it mattered. Whilst I was away, it came out Castleford had not been given half a point that they should have been, and that effectively made us 13th. Fortunately, I dropped my phone out of a kayak into the sea and it didn't work. And it was a blessing. I had no hassle about it. But if you look at where Castleford have come now, I don't know anybody else's score, but I'm going to predict something here now, right? That might surprise some people. I think Castleford will just about get an A. Now, you might be saying you've got to be absolutely crazy saying that with their stadium being an older stadium. But I'll tell you for why I think. Because they've brought in LEDs around the sides of the pitches. They've brought in a big screen. They've made more seats undercover. They've got a guy who's come in who's got money, who's obviously, tailored and chopped his financial investment to suit the maximum score like I've done. And I think that is a strong advert for how IMG has improved the sport in terms of Castleford. And they fought tooth and nail when they was down there with Hull FC and we was distancing. They never gave up because they knew every single microscopic point was relevant. That for me is a positive what we talk about IMG. And the opposite end of the spectrum, there's no way if IMG wouldn't have been involved in this game would you have seen what you got turfed up from Hull FC. Not a cat and hell's chance would Adam have got rid of all those players and saved his money and banked it and not really cared about what the season was. That was because on just about getting a grade A, which I don't think they'll have when the scores come out. They'll be safe, but I don't think it'll be an A because there was like 0.05 over it. And I think just the position in the league, we'll see them drop. That's an advert of why you cannot have a competition where your on-field performance counts for so little. So to put that in perspective, where Leigh sit, we've scored more than 15 points. I've already gone public and said that. Obviously, that's to be confirmed by the RFL and their auditors. So we know where we sit with what the RFL have put forward to the auditors. So there's no issues there. It's now just making sure the audit, well, you've marked your own exam paper on this. You're given the questions. You're given how to answer them the best you can. And you kind of know where you are. So we're not expecting any any big sort of issues around it. We know exactly where we're sat and we know exactly what we're going to get and where we're going to go from. But our score of 15 was 15.24. We don't get the big screen score, okay? Our UEFA women's big screen that's in our stadium, our facility, I won't speak out of turn, but I know Warrington's doesn't get it either. So it's to do with pixelation. Now, if we look at IMG and all of American sport, when we look at baseball, we look at basketball, we look at American football, they've got screens as big as the North Stand. They're fantastic, and the pixelation and everything's great. So Castleford, because they've invested and done it now, theirs meets that criteria, and that's great. So let's keep having higher standards, but there's an issue in having 0 if it doesn't meet that high standard, and you get the same points as having no screen. So the things that I think the RFL will learn and get a little bit better. So we're marginally over 15 is what I know. Now, of that 15 points and of the maximum 20 you can get, only 3.2 of our score comes from performance. And that, in my book, is wrong because we're ranked as the 8th best team in performance in Super League. It's not an algorithm. It's a 3-year average. So we've placed 13th because we finished 13th effectively by finished first in championship. Then we finished 5th and we've finished 4th because it's playoff position. So you add that together and you get 22. So, you know, that's us. We're 22. And then if you add, say, Wigan have got first and third, then they're 5. And you do that across every team. And then you list the lowest number to highest number. And that's where everybody finishes. And say you're number 8, which we are, that's worth 3.2 points. And that's how that's calculated. So everybody can see, it's transparent. You can do your own maths away from here and know where everybody will score on performance. And I just don't think it's enough when I can score as much on, well, we score 3.8 on finance and 3.2 on performance and 4.2 on fandom. So I just think there's merit in it. Where it's a big problem for me is it's a cost the sport can't afford. What have I seen that justifies giving £40,000 of my money to IMG? Nothing. That poster does not excite me to pay 40,000 to see that. We can drive those standards without it. I was firmly led to believe that, and this is how I pitched it to other clubs when I was asked to support it, was if a salesman walked into my business tomorrow and said, I can sell you decks on caravan parks that you don't currently deal with, right? And I don't want paying anything, but I want 15% of everything I sell for you. And I'd be an absolute fool to tell that guy to get out of the place, okay? Unless I was already working at 100% capacity. Now, we know that as a rugby league sport, we're not working anywhere near 100 capacity. We know that we don't have the resources to have loads of marketing teams, marketing staff, digital engagement people, all these specialists that a global conglomerate can bring to us. That excited me. I thought, wow, we're going to have all these negotiators, all these specialist marketeers. We're going to elevate, you know, the club's not going to need money from me. And in fact, these things could become worth money like football clubs. That was my expectation because I believed that the onus was on them because they was getting nothing other than a share of that success. So when I found out that actually what we'd signed was a £5 million deal, committing the sport to pay in the marketing budget that they don't have of 450 grand a year for the next 10 years, I was flat and deflated. And, you know, unless I see something differently in terms of going forward and getting better deals, I look at it like this, dead simple. From the centre, we get 1.25 million. From that, deductions are made for things that we all agree to, like gum shield for brain health, various odds and sods. And it's dwindling. That was 1.8 back in 17 when we was in there. So I'm down at 2/3 of what I was at because the valuation of the sport is down. So I'm being valued at allowing cameras and use of Leigh Leopards brand that's very close and passionate to me at £90,000 a game when you come in. And if we're to take these figures that we're seeing there on that slide, and I'm to say that 250,000 people watch my club on Sky who are allowed into every game, then we can do the maths. I haven't worked it out, but we're talking 20 odd p per viewer. I'm sorry, but that ain't cricket. So I would rather, and I say this without any fear of being called out on it, I would sooner say, I tell you what, next year, keep your money. I don't want it. But I'll keep my brand and I'll dictate who comes in and who films. You can film me when we go to other clubs because that's their right. But you don't come in here for that value. So we want much more, significantly more. And I believe I can market my club for much more. And we can stream our own games and we can reach far wider audiences. And that's what Super League Plus is designed to do. And that's what we need to monetize. That's what we need to get the adverts on. That's where we need to get all the club's games streaming through it. And then we can let Sky have a slice, but at the right price. So if they just want to take a few games for that money, and they think at the moment there is no competition to them, I'm competition to them for my own brand. And collectively, we need to get clubs. You know, Mike Danson, far more wealth in his little finger than I've got in my whole body. You know, the guy's a billionaire. He don't need 1.25 million. He'll just go and say, well, I'll jump on a streaming. Simon Moran, Eamon McNurse, Mark McNulty. You can go further in there. If enough of us speak up and are prepared to give the RFL or RL Commercial the power to know that actually we're not going to be shoved about with a deal that devalues our products and can only get a viewership of 250,000. You know, we're going to get out to these wider audiences that attract 3 million where they're not behind a paywall and make it a smaller paywall. You know, if it's £1 or it's a couple of quid, there's more money to be had. So as a sport, we need to become competition to the broadcast audience that's out there. And that's what IMG should be trying to build and empower us to do through all their Endeavour partners and global streaming.
Derek, that was just glorious. Absolutely glorious, I have to say. And you know what? So say all of us. NRL, that's been rumoured. NRL are looking, depending on who you listen to and what have you, that's quite, those discussions are being had. Would the NRL be a good fit?
You don't need to buy Super League. You just re-establish. You know, if you look at what I'm genuinely talking to American investors when I was to have just been back over here and so you heard the Louis Trez and the Hennessy Paradis, what they drop off with me. It's like I don't even drink, I don't even buy that for myself as a treat if I'm on a yacht. These guys drop that off as the norm. It's a different level. I'm sat at the side of the guy while he's flying me around the States in his own plane. And they're just one small part of the person who I met who actually manages massive funds for a lot of wealthy people. And it's in the early parts. Their original interest was in buying a club. And they said, you know, what would you get a club for about 30 million? I said, 30 million, you'll get the sport for 30 million. What are you on about? You know, if we're getting 1.25 and we're giving the RFL, you know, 5 million to run it, then if you go to all the clubs and say, right, we're going to give you all 2 million each, we're going to have, you know, for me it's 2 tens, but that's a separate subject. If we say, right, we're going to have, let's just stick with what we've got currently, 12 teams in Super League, we're going to give you all 2 million each, so that's 24, and we're going to give the RFL 6 instead of 5, so that's 30. That's before we take any money in from, you know, broadcasting, from mushy peas, from whatever else it is we've got in there, right? Then those clubs will come. And if any of them don't, right, the next ones in, your Widnesses, your Bradfords, your Featherstones, whoever it is, will come. And you'll get 12 clubs that will take the money. Then the players will go to the clubs that's got the money because the agents want the most money for the players. There's only so many players. Let's just say it's 30 a squad. So there's 360 players represented by 15 managers. Okay. So I host 15 managers wherever we do it on teams or at a place. And whether it's in Australia or over here, we do some in Australia, some over here. And we explain to them what the focus is, when it starts, how much the clubs are, which the clubs are, the tweaks to the rules, the assistance to the referees that makes it easier. And the way that, you know, the game can be more monetized, then that then becomes something that they will move to. So you don't need, the NRL don't need to come and pay 50 million quid for 30% of Super League or whatever the numbers are that are quoted. It's simply something that you can just establish like darts did way back when. The only thing I would make a strict caveat to it is that whoever did, if I was involved in getting that kind of vehicle and to establish itself, is that it took forward with it the governing body insofar as funding that so that it can look after the lower level clubs in terms of the championship, the grassroots, the community game, the refereeing and the officiating. We might have some opinions on the match review panel and microscopic analysis of games after they've happened and banning players. Lots of things I've got to say on that we can't go into, but the players want to play rugby. The fans want to watch rugby in a certain way and in a certain style. There's a form of rugby league at the moment that's moving far away from that. And I understand we've got to be responsible for our players and we can't let Kai O'Donnell sign off and play when he's got a tear in his rib. So we can have medical standards, but we can have a closer game back to what we had. And when people say you can't get insured, that's absolutely nonsense. The NRL get insured and they play it differently. You know, boxers get insured, MMA fighters get insured. Every business has to have insurance to be able to function. So all of those things are easily doable, but we've got to be doing it with responsibility. Now, I do think that it is possible to, with the right emphasis and focus on change, to try and manipulate and drive what we've currently got differently with some external investment, if there is a willingness to move towards getting the game to where it is. And if that isn't, my proposals that I'm writing up for these people to consider will be, it's nothing money to them. English sport is small change to American big investors, and they look at the numbers that the NRL makes 60 million and they're giving 10 million out per club. Providing when you're selling this to the member clubs as well, you've got a position where any additional, profits and stuff over a part, you do get another sharing. But the guys that will make the money are the guys that come in and put the money into it. And the more money they make, the better the sport becomes. That's not a dirty word, you know what I mean? They make profit. They come in and they invest and they make profit. And it makes the game better. It means that you're less reliant on investors like myself. They could go and open a club in Cumbria and spend 20 million quid on building a stadium that holds 10,000 and put it in West Cumbria and say, well, that's going to happen. So you clubs either jump in and make a new club or we're going to form one, because that investment then grows it because they've got money involved. That's the difference. At the moment, we're sat here believing somebody who's earning 450 grand out of us, no matter what they do, is going to make a difference, and telling us that we should be happy that we got 21 million because Sky said we should only really get 17. You're having a laugh at me, So we need to go in there with the front and say, this is what the potential is that's going to come in, because these guys wouldn't be going to Sky and even talking to them about 21 million. They just said, we're not interested. They put infrastructure in every stadium to stream the games and then go and stream it en masse and promote it and market it. And if we could spend the 450 grand a year that we're giving IMG on marketing and infrastructure into the game, we'd have a better slide to put up than the one you started this piece of conversation with.
Right, let's start a petition. Rugby Football League not fit for purpose. Derek Beaumont to take over Super League. What I love about that is that is so Super League raw. That is passion. That is seeing our sport as what it is. Our sport is the greatest sport in the world. Nobody compares to a rugby league athlete. No one. Not a single person. You mentioned those people over in the States with the pads and their helmets. Not a patch on our boys. Not a patch. The footballers who roll around and cry having, stubbed the toenail. Not a patch on our boys. Our boys are quality athletes. They deserve the very best. And what I love about Derek, the battle isn't just, though, the big money. What you do at Leigh, and I'll just say it as it is, what you did with the memberships last year, that's going above and beyond. In fact, it's not going above and beyond. It's the man that you are, and it's where you want the Leopards to get to. But everybody else is in your wake. The entertainment, the way you do the memberships, the fact that you had about 4 or 5 different Player of the Year awards, because every member matters. Every member gets a vote. That is how you build a rugby league club. That is how you build a community. That is how you drive a sport forward. Let's start a petition now. Derek to leave the Rugby Football League. I'm in all day long. That was absolutely fascinating.
The beauty is, though, that as clubs we share, and we're not, we're not protective of hiding things. Like we talked earlier about Wigan. I go to Wigan, the semi-final. They've got an ABBA tribute on the pitch there. They've got pyros. They put some lasers in, which I like that we haven't done. So they're trying to look at what they can do to emulate and then go a little bit better. You've always got to self-analyse, and sure, Warrington or another club fits either Simon, Stewart, invest and look at things that they can do and come up with ideas. And we're sure we look at the membership boxes this year with 3,200 in the gold category. The black card memberships would max out at 180 in that room anyway. And the one that sits below it that Steph yourself, you've done in the black card members lounge, and the platinum is 140. It started out with 52. And people were saying, well, should we just let people buy in there for a game? And I was like, absolutely not. You've got to come in for the year. The year after, it had 170. We got 140. And we've got a waiting list of 80 people, and we've not put memberships on sale yet. Most other clubs are scrambling doing it. We've still not got the details out. But what you do when you get demand, you can increase what your worth is. So when we get allocated 2,000 tickets for Salford, albeit that ended up more. People panicked and went and bought direct from Salford. Warrington only got to take 1,100 people to Craven Park, which is testament to the fact that OKR can sell their stadium out most weeks. That's going to become more and more. So those 1,100 tickets, if we was in a semi-final, if you've got 3,200 goal members thinking they've got priority, they haven't got priority, have they? You know, because it's a lottery. So you look at that and you think that's too big of a category. So you take that and you create a gold plus, and then the gold plus pays more than gold, but you give them something for it. So you make membership of your academy mandatory. So they've got £10 a month going into the academy, and you give them a free ticket to bring a friend with it. You give them free membership to Leopards TV. You bolt things on, and people value that to get the priority down the line. And that's growing your club. That's growing your members, adding in different tiers. And that's to me, the kind of advice. There should be people coming in and advising me and other clubs of these ideas. That's what this 45 or 40 grand, 450 grand a year should be. I hear Matt Ellis at Wakey, fabulous guy, put money into the sport. You know, I've spoke to him a lot. I spoke to him just on his semi-final there when he'd won it, because I was like, what's happening here? Jordan Thompson smashed through, give it Ataringaro. I'm like, the Leigh lads are going to kill him. What's happening? You know, fair play to York, made a right game of it on listening on the radio. And then Matt's immediate thing, and he won't mind me saying this to you, Matt's immediate thing was, I'm going to put tickets on sale cheap and fill it, right? And I said, Matt, don't do that. Please, whatever you do, don't do that, because I tell you now, if you're going to get 5,000 fans and they're all going to pay 30 quid, if you make it a tenner, you might get 6,000 fans, right? And you'll make a hell of a lot less more money. You might get a touch more on secondary spend, but you've set the expectations for a big game. This is your biggest game of the year. Should be your dearest game. And it should be, make it hard to get in. Make it that there's only 1,000 tickets left when there's 3,000. I don't mind openly telling people on here, right, that last year, and more so the year before than last year, our buying habits at LSV, the Sports Village and the Leopards Den for the North Stand and anywhere in the stand, you've been able to walk up at a minute before kickoff, buy a ticket, go and walk in the North Stand and watch the game. We're trying to change habits. So in that first year as Leopards, I'd be like, how's ticket sales going? Oh yeah, we've got 800 in the North Stand, of which 600 were season tickets, as they was called then. And I'd say, put a post out saying only 400 tickets left in the North Stand. Looks like it's going to be a sellout. Guess what happened inside 3 hours? There was only 400 tickets left in the North Stand. And people started panicking, thinking, And it's about having that advice, having somebody being able to tell you who's done it and knows it's worked. And Matt messaged me only this morning and he went, wow, mate, I'm glad I listened to you. We've already passed 5,000 tickets. And, you know, we've sold 12 from Toulouse. And that's, you know, me jibbing the French, whatever. But I said, I congratulated on that. I said, because that's 12 more than I've ever sold to anyone from Toulouse or even Catalan. So, you know, the guy's winning. But he's putting his money in there, and he cries out at these meetings and he says, who's helping with the marketing? He's big on his digital. He's got his own ticket app. You know, he's got a massive 120 million turnover pound online kitchen business. The guy, if I want any advice on digital or on a ticket app, our chairman, Mike Laven, bought his ticket and went down there for that game. Downloaded his app, bought his ticket there, and then everything dead simple. I'm like, we could do with something like that. I'd ask him, and he'd happily tell me for nothing of how to do it. And we share ideas. So where is the people? Where is the infrastructure within this IMG global business that for 450 grand we can go and tap onto, who's got all these ideas, that some of which I'm sharing? I don't see it.
What I will say, I'll leave it until off air, but I'll tell you something when we go off air tonight. And as based on what you've just said, you'll go, oh my Lord. And that's all you'll say. Or words to that effect you'll take anyway, but we'll talk about that off air. Look, that has been a fascinating IMG conversation. And, you know, there'll be some people who've loved that. I've loved it. It's fascinating to see the passion, the drive, where Derek wants the sport to get to. I think that's been fantastic and well worth you tuning in for. But I also appreciate that, you know, you come to Super League Raw for something a little bit different as well. So, you know, I don't like to disappoint. I don't like to disappoint at all. Now, I told you in Super League Raw Weekly, you members out there, no reason to become a member. Over the course of the winter, we're going right the way through the winter because Rugby League is a 52 new week of the year, sport. Oh, yes, we're going to celebrate our sport right the way through the winter. And our members are going to compete for the Mastermind Trophy. That's right. We're going to put them head to head. We're going to do a draw. There's going to be a prize at the end. And guess what? Tonight, I've got some guinea pigs. So this is what you've got to look forward to.
It's time to play He Who Roars Loudest. In the blue corner, it's the descendant of Tommy, a supporter supreme, our very own Steph Sale. And in the red corner, it's a fashion icon and owner, Mr. Derek Beaumont. Bragging rights are on the line. Who will roar the loudest? It's time for Steph versus Dexy.
It is. It's time for Dexy versus Steph. That's right. This is what you've got to look forward to over the winter. We're going to pit the owner against one of his biggest supporters for a bit of sport. Here we jolly well go. They didn't know they were getting this tonight, but this is what they're getting. Reggie, you sit back and enjoy, sir. Watch them squirm. Right, okay. Who wants to go first? Should we do head to tails? Steph, go on, Steph. As you're a normal, here we go. Head to tails, Steph.
Tails.
Tails, first or second. Ooh, it's ahead. So, Derek, you've got a choice, first or second?
I'll go second, then I've got an idea.
Fantastic. Right, Steph, you're getting question number one. All of these questions on the Leigh Leopards. Here we go.
Right.
What do I win? What do I win? Dexy wants a prize.
Bragging rights over Derek, mate. Nothing more, nothing less. But this is going to be good fun. Right. So, Steph, who scored the Leopards' first try of the 2024 season against Huddersfield at the LSV?
Josh Charnley.
Correct for 1 point. Well done, sir. Right off the top of the head. Well done. Right. Derek, who scored the Leopards' first try of Magic Weekend against Salford at Leeds?
You know what? I watched that as well. I'm going to go same answer.
You're going Josh?
Yeah.
Steph leads 1-0 at the end of the first. It's 3 questions, boys. 3 each. But yeah, Steph, it was Edwin Ipape.
Okay, yeah.
It was Edwin Ipape. So Steph he's got a 1-0 lead. Going into the second question, Steph, which player made the most tackle busts in 2024 for the Leigh Leopards?
Robbie Mullen.
As Derek's behind, I'm going to give him a go.
I'm going to have to go Tom Amon.
Both wrong, believe it or not. Ricky Latelli in 93.
Wow. You wouldn't have had...
Yeah, there you go. There you go. Ricky Latelli in 93. Right, over to Mr. Beaumont. Which player made the most tackles for the Leopards with 856 this season, ranked 4th in Super League?
Do you know what? You automatically think Edwin, but he's not played enough games. I think a lot of people attack our right edge as opposed to our left. How many did you say they made?
856 in Super League.
Do you know what? You wouldn't think this, but I'm going to say Frankie Holton.
And you would be right, Mr. Beaumont. You've evened it up. It's 1-1 after 2 questions. It was Frankie Holton, 4th overall in Super League. Right, over to Steph. This one looms large in the memory, Steph. In the 28-28 draw with the Castleford Tigers, 5 Leigh Leopards crossed the line. Who were they?
God. That's a tough question. I'm going to say Amaya Hanley.
You going Hanley? Okay. McIntosh.
Yeah. Lamb. Latelli. Kai O'Donnell.
You got 2. Oh, just the 2. The try scorers were Matty Moylan, Edwin Ipape, Josh Charnley, Ricky Latelli, and Lachlan Lamb.
Ugh.
So that puts you on 3 points, my friend. So, Derek, similar question coming your way. You could actually leapfrog him here. You might even get to a tiebreaker. Who knows? There is a tiebreaker, don't worry, ladies and gentlemen, if we get that far. But here we go, Derek. Your chance to do Mr. Sale. In round 9, the Leopards hosted the Dragons and won 30 points to 2. Who scored the 5 tries?
Right, so we definitely got to have Charnley.
Okay.
Kai O'Donnell.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure Tom Amon scored in that one.
Right.
So there must be 5 separate try scorers. I wouldn't be able to get 5 points. So I'm going to go Edwin.
Edwin Pape.
And I'm going to go Moylan.
You're going to go Moylan. Right. Charlie did score. Kai O'Donnell did score. So you're now 3-all. You didn't put O'Donnell down for 2 because he scored 2. You could have got him again, and you didn't. I think you went Edwin Pape, am I right?
Yeah.
Milo Hanley scored that night.
I got them wrong.
And the 5th try went to Matt Moylan. Derek wins 4-3. Oh, that's a big call there right at the end. Outstanding stuff in the first ever Steph versus Degsy. Degsy comes out on top. Many congratulations, Mr. Beaumont.
Thank you.
Bragging rights.
He'll take that as well. He'll love that. He'll absolutely love that. Been reminding me of that for weeks now.
And that's what you get at Super League. You never know what you're going to get. That was the first ever Degsy against Steph. That's what you've got to look forward to over the winter months. We'll feature that in Super League Raw Weekly. People going head to head, a bit of sport, a bit of a giggle. Great sports, Steph and Derek there. That's what you've got to look forward to here at Super League Raw. Become a member, support us. We always give it back in prizes. This year, we've sent 2 people to the Challenge Cup final. We've sent people to the Magic Weekend. We've sent people to the Grand Final. Oh, we've given so much away. We've got a season ticket that we've given away. I mean, you've just got to come and join Super League Raw. We do invest it back into you, the members. Please come and join us. Don't forget, live on the 21st of January. That is going to be a happening. Right, okay. We're going to finish the show we'll do Q&A. We're all right for time. I just want to ask Derek, a lot of announcements over the course of the last couple of days. Big respect to you and the club in terms of how you handle transfer business. You always wait until the season's done before you start announce players, and we know that these contracts are signed and sealed long before the campaign has finished. I think I'm right in thinking that this year, can you negotiate from December for 2026?
Yeah.
So
last year, yeah.
So that's a full 12 months that deals are going to get done. But Leigh take the decision that they're not going to feed the press. They're not going to, put players under that amount of scrutiny and pressure. They'll wait until the end of the season, which is, to your great credit. But now, of course, the end of the season's come and you have started out. Of course, Armstrong was a little bit earlier. We got that. Many players have been announced. We've just seen the caliber of the players that are leaving the Leopards this year. A lot of Leigh Leopards fans have tuned in tonight, as I'm sure they do whenever you do your podcast on Leigh Leopards TV as well. How optimistic are you that this is not going to be a transitional season, that this isn't going to be a step back, that the players that you're bringing in can take the Leigh Leopards forward? Because let's be fair, you are now absolutely minimum considered to be a playoff side. What can you say to your fans that are watching tonight and the rest of the Super League? Why should they be worried about the Leigh Leopards going into 2025?
Yeah, well, I think the glue in all of that is the fact that Adrian Lamb's part of what's going to be going on for at least the next few years. You've got the best teams have the least amount of turnover and churnage. I genuinely do believe that. So I do think it's too many that we're seeing. That's driven by desire from Kai O'Donnell and Tom Amon wanting to go back and play in the NRL. So it isn't anything wrong with our club or wrong with our offers. We just don't have on offer what they want. So that goes where it goes. When we got Zach from Leeds, he got 2 years from us, and Leeds was only giving him 1 year because that's what they thought. A little bit like where we kind of were with John. So similarly with Oggy. So sometimes we've done it a lot in the Championship. We've paid overs or we've give longer. We've had to find something to make our club more attractive. We're not in that position now. So players that go go with our best wishes, and because somebody's prepared to give them something different. So our job then, or Ches's, is to bring in new people. And I always try and aim for this, and it's not disrespectful to those that have left, but I measure Chesy and Lammy and say, can you make the team that we will have next year beat the team that has just finished up playing this year? That's the simple question that I measure it by. And when they answer yes, then I feel like I'm using my money and our supporters and members' money and sponsors wisely. And I think that's the case. So there's no perfect science to it. You know, you can look at these players, you can look at BTs. It's how they blend as a team. That will take Adrian a bit of time. We go to a place called La Santa in Lanzarote, have our pre-season camp. That's where we set our goals. That's where we create our togetherness, our culture, and that people buy into what we want to do and where we want to go. And the minimum bar would be playoffs. You know, I won't hide behind anything differently. It was this year. And we'll be looking to elevate the bar even higher than that. I think some key people that are in and amongst and around that, you know, in your Robbie Mallones, in your Edwin Ipapes, the thing that we probably lacked this year is some out and out speed at the back. Matt Moylan, without doubt, is a class player, and he was brought in to play in the halves and spent the season at fullback. And he'd be the first to tell you that his pace isn't his biggest attribute. So you see what you get with Jai Field and Bevan Francis. So fixing that up with Davy Armstrong's a big thing. So I think Lammy's got a tough job of blending that together quickly. We've invested in our medical team to try and get that into an improved place, not a better place. Just keep raising the bar on our review. And I think collectively, if we can start better, which I'm fairly sure we will, we'll finish where we want to finish, and we'll compete where we want to compete.
Fantastic, absolutely marvellous. And it looks from the outside looking in, pace has been a big factor. I mean, let's be fair, you know, you've had a degree of pace. I think Hanley has settled in lovely at centre this year. You've got to give him his due. McIntosh, we know, has got bags of pace. You know, Josh is still a fine player, still got plenty in the tank. But you're right, that full-back position, whether it be Gaz O'Brien, whether it be Matty Moreland, it hasn't had that electric pace. Armstrong brings you that. So I think for me, yes, it's a transition, but from somebody who doesn't watch the Leigh Leopards, I'm looking at your acquisitions, and actually it could be a faster, more exciting brand of rugby league that comes to the Leigh Leopards next year. And as you say, no disrespect to those players who've served you well and are moving on, but you know, time stands for no man, does it? It looks like it's going to be a good season.
If you without a shadow of a doubt, everything's got to be exciting, and equally, all the other clubs have done their recruitment well, and they'll have their new versions of themselves and the unknown, and it's going to be really competitive. And I think if we can all raise the bar again and keep it how this year's been, then we're taking the sport in the right direction, however it ends up being done. But I think you mentioned there Amila Hanley and Darnell McIntosh, and one of the and Frankie inside him now, and the number of tackles he's made. I think one of the games, I think it was the Saints game, he made 43 tackles and didn't have a single miss. Now, earlier in the year, I'm stood when we're playing Warrington away, and I'm like, what is going on? Like, you know, when's Lammy going to lose any patience? What he does, Adrian, is he absolutely sticks by his guns and by a player that he believes in. And he massively believed that Frankie Alton can be something far more than Frankie Alton is now. And you've just said that. I didn't know, but when I made a calculated assessment on it, I picked him how good he's finished the season. And he was a big loss in that semi-final. Both back rowers out and Charlie, but you just see him getting better. I see Amila getting bigger and stronger. Him and Darnell forging what I think in time. They're both very young, and Frankie's still young. That could become a real solid edge when we look at strength on defence. Charlie's obviously coming in to another year. Still a great finisher. Still going for them awards of top try scorer. All he's going to keep pushing his way at Leeds. The Tessie knew he brings something different than Ricky Latelli. Ricky's been outstanding. I was surprised that he's made the most tackle busts. I think that probably shows our lack of pace to them to have been as noticeable as they are to not see them because we've not got on the back of them and finished them off. Kai O'Donnell's a big loss, his special relationship with Lockie Lamb. But if you was to computer generate and try and make Kai better than he was, you'd lengthen his legs by another 6 inch. And that's what we've got in Condon. He's 6'5", 17 stone, proposes a different proposition with Newey. So that's 2 spaces in that 3. Lammy and Moylan. Edwin, for me, best 9 in the game when he's fit and on it, the way he kills. We've still got Robbie Malone. I believe Aaron Penny will become more like Tom Amon was. Liu there in the 13 spot. I think a guy that's really come on loads as well is Trout. Yeah, and we've got other people that'll be better for the experience. Lewis Brogan, he's getting that year older, and we're recruiting young people there to try and establish, and that's what Lammy and Chesney want to do. And we'll just keep pushing forward, and hopefully, we'll get our just desserts and win something again. Challenge Cup.
Well done. Buy your season tickets, get those memberships. That's what it's all about. And hey, Frankie, nothing wrong with Frankie. Sister Sledge spoke about him long before his time. Did our Frankie? We remember Frankie. Great guy. And don't you worry about that Warrington game. That Matty Nicholson trial was a thing of beauty, my friend. Absolute thing of beauty. I actually said to Steph, because he was with us that day, I thought even though your injuries were pretty bad at that point, I said, they're going to give us a game. You're going to give us a game here. You very nearly won it, I have to say. But yeah, Matty Nicholson, fantastic. Anyway, we won't happen about that. This is a Be the Raw night on Super League Raw, as we well know.
Do you know what, though? The friendlies are always a good indicator of you guys. The last 2 years we've played our warm-up game, just one warm-up game, and it's been a game for you guys. And there's never been a lot in it, and that's transpired into both league games. Warrington, a great season in my eyes. You might not think so.
No, we do. We think it's a phenomenal year.
Get more, and playing some great rugby. Burgess has got a year on more with that group and as a coach, because obviously it was his first year as a coach. It's a great achievement, and it'd be interesting when we lock arms in that pre-season warm-up again for Toby's testimonial and see just exactly where we both are in the early part.
We look forward to that. Right, we're going to get some final questions going the way of Derek's way. But before we do, Derek, it won't surprise you based on his quiz form that Steph did finish bottom of the Prediction League in Super League Raw. Actually, no, not bottom. Fans form were bottom, but he was second bottom. And Ellie, his eldest, who you know well, the picture was on the screen when the quiz started. Ellie said that next time it won't be Steph versus Degsy. It'll be Ellie versus Degsy. So be warned, Ellie's coming for you in the quiz. Don't you worry about that. She's on her way. And actually, there you go. Darcy as well sends a big hello to Daddy and to Derek. It's lovely, isn't it? Absolutely
marvelous. Steph Sales, the whole FC of the quiz forum on Rugby League.
Well, actually, let's just two very quick fire questions here. Yes or no's. First question. It's been in the chat. Guys, start getting your questions in now. If you've already submitted your question, submit it again because I can't go through the feed and find them. So if you've got a question for Derek, bang it in. We'll try and get a couple to in between now and when we finish. A couple of questions from me. It's already been in the chat. Everybody's asking the question. Matt Moylan, yes, no, or no comment next season, 2025 Leigh Leopards?
As it stands, is a yes. My personal thoughts are, I think Matt's going to retire, but I don't know that. I just think from what he's how he sort of was. He almost said something at the awards night that made me think he was actually talking as if he's already made a conscious decision, but that's not factual, and it's as good a guess as anyone else's.
Fair enough.
If he does go, he's been great for us this year, and if he doesn't, then I'm sure he'll be great for us next year. So it will be a loss at this stage of the season if we've got to start trying to find somebody new, because there's nothing planned there for it, I can tell you that much. So we'll be at square one with it. But as with any contract, if a player decides all of a sudden they don't want to do it, it's pointless trying to force them. So at the moment, he's definitely a Leigh Leopard, but I think in hearts of hearts, that won't be the case next year.
Fair enough. Toby King, because it's Toby King's testimony, I presume that's going to be the HJ. in the
Yeah.
winter months? That'd be the winter months. Right, okay. So what I'm going to do is we're going to get Reggie wants to ask you a question. So Reggie, I'm going to bring you in. On you go, mate.
Good evening. Congratulations to Leigh women as well at the other weekend, getting promotion. And as probably most of the forum know, I follow women's rugby league. I do a lot of media for the Warrington women's team, and I'm just wondering, with Leigh going up, what do you think teams outside of York, Leeds, and St Helens women's teams have got to do to close that gap, to make sure that the standards of Women's Super League keeps improving year on year, and we don't get the same teams winning year on year?
You've got to spend money. I had a meeting with Kieran he's just gone away on holiday before he did, because I go away while he is away. And what we've built on is having a top quality coach in Kieran Pirtle, who's a Super League coach. So they've got real good mileage out of that, having a conditioning, their own conditioner and physio medical use of the gym, exact same kits as our first team, and using the first team bus to go on away games. So we've made them feel as important in the club. We're one and all. You saw with our LDRL team giving them the fireworks and everything. We're all one and one. That's only going to carry us so far. That carried us through last year, keeping players that could have gone to some of those teams you've mentioned. They're good enough to. If we just chuck money and say we're going to play every player a certain amount of money, like one club I won't name does, not because it's wrong in what they're doing, just because it's not fair for me to say that's what they do and how they do it, then I don't think that will necessarily get us our best value for the money. As in first team, you've got players on 30 grand and players on 250, 300 grand at all clubs. And I think that's got to be the same in the women's game. I think for us, we may well need to target an individual that we can make a big statement around, and put some bread in the basket for that, and attract other people in and around our seriousness. And we've shown that we've got a real belief in our women's team. I've been to a lot of their games. My wife's a big supporter of it. We were when it was the minors. So it's going to take money is the simple answer to the question. Those teams you've mentioned pay and invest in that women's team and give them the facilities. And that's what we're going to have to do to get anywhere near them.
Cheers, Derek. Thank you.
Wonderful, absolutely superb. And this better be a good question after that debacle quiz performance, Steph. Go on. Oh, can't hear him. Is he on mute? Can't hear you, Steph.
There you go. I'm back on there. I'll ask one on behalf of all the Leigh fans. We're all excited for next season. How soon can we expect to see the new kit and things like that, so we can go and spend all our hard-earned money and help fund this wonderful team?
Just on that as well, Derek, somebody in the chat has asked, are you moving kit manufacturer as well? So maybe 2 for 1 there.
The answer is yeah, but I won't say who, because it would be unfair to just release that flippantly on here. But it's a move in the direction of everything else that we're trying to move, and that's no disrespect to our this year's supplier in Patrick, who done a great job. I think they really got our design brief, and they've been great in what they've done, and we've had record sales of merchandise, and we sold over 8,000 shirts, which for our club is colossus. It's 3 times more than our previous best. But the design team of the new people, one guy's a real passionate Leigh person. He comes from a big football brand as well, and he just gets me, and he gets where we're trying to go. So to answer Steph, I've done some footage today on the membership boxes and what's in there. The thing that's holding everybody getting their usernames and passwords for the new ticketing system that links to LSV is the design of the kit needs to be showcased on there, so that you can decide. If you don't like it, you might not want to be a gold member, because it includes a shirt and you're not going to buy it. Then you might opt for white membership. You might have gone white last year because you didn't like this year's kit, and you might like the new one. I'm going to put it out there. When you first see this home kit, you're going to think, whoa, that could be a bit chaotic, right? You might feel like you dropped a trip in a 1970s, 80s disco, right? But the more you look at it, a bit like, you know, when you've not got your glasses on and your eyes tune in, it comes on you. And I think it'll be a winner. So like anything, it'll get criticism. Nothing's ever going to be as bad as that Daft Leopard one, what we had to do to start. I was looking at that footage, what you put together of that VT and thinking, God, was that bad? But, you know, no. So you should see that hopefully on Friday. We've got a partnership. You'd normally launch a shirt with all your sponsors on it. But because we've got to launch our shirt for the memberships, which needs to be this month, that would not do justice to the commercial deal that we've done for that position on the shirt. And that needs to be launched in a different way. So we've got agreement with that business now that we can put the shirt out without their details on. So the design's there, and then their details will come onto it in a better launch. So you should see the shirt Friday with your usernames and passwords, and everyone can rip me a brand new one. But the one that you'll see in after Christmas, the away one, is an absolute drop dead winner.
So there you go. There's your Christmas presents all sorted out courtesy of Derek and the team. Right, boys, we're going to go through some of our questions in the chat. We've got 10 minutes left. That's all, Derek. 10 minutes left. And what we're going to do is we're going to just hot pace it through some of these. Try and be as brief as you can. Give the answers. Let's get through as many as we can. So carry on, a member here at Super League Raw. Get Ipape signed up, Derek. Are there any plans to extend Edwin Ipape? Because let's be fair, he's the best number 9 in the comp.
Every plan until the day you can't run.
Marvellous. So we'll hold on for that one. Craig Forth, other than winning a trophy, do you have any other targets? So let me rephrase Craig's question. Of course you want to win a trophy. You don't go into any season without the ambition of winning a trophy. But what does, other than the trophy, what does success look like for Leigh Leopards next year?
Next year's success is to finish in the top 4. To start with, not after the playoffs. You know, we'll be aiming high. I think that's realistic. And we'd like to get ourselves back to Wembley as well. But just for me, that's a team element. For me, success looks like selling the ground out more times than we did this year, increasing the number of memberships that we've currently got, and keep driving the commercial element of the club higher.
Fair play. Outstanding. Now, I must admit, there's certain questions that come in. Billy Stead, take a bow, sir. What a question. This is outstanding. This is why people tune in to Super League Raw. Would you rather fight a horse-sized Richie Myler or 150 squirrel-sized Richie Myler? What a great question that is. That is outstanding. Is it squirrels or is it horses? Which one is it?
I'd definitely rather take one bigger one than 150 little ones. A quick story for you. In 1995, I was 24. I went to Rio de Janeiro on a sales competition for a building company called Wix. And the guide said to me, whatever you do, do not give the beggars money. Being an idiot, it was my birthday and I had the equivalent of 100 quid on me, which back then was a few quid, but I did all right. And I gave it one of these beggars. And there was probably about 10 kids under 10 years old. And I was on my backside, overpowered, with them rifling through me. So I don't want 150 Richie Myler squirrels. One horse size one. You'd need bit size of an horse beat me though, and let's be honest.
Well, I would back you to ride, mate. I would back you to ride, that all I would say, in the nicest possible way, of course. Right, Simon Shaw. Good evening, Simon. Not a member, and I'm still going to put your question out. Get becoming a member, Simon. Derek, what are your thoughts on the rumours that Hull FC are going to be wearing black and white leopard print next season?
I reckon it'd be a winner for them. They'd do a fortune.
And actually, just on follow-up, because I was going to ask you this a moment ago, what's your relation? I mean, all jokes aside, what is the relationship currently between Leigh and Hull? Because there's a lot of toing and froing in the press. What's the reality?
I'm all for a bit of banter, right? I've got a lot of good friends from the Robins and the Black and Whites. Caravan Land is in Hull. That's where all caravans are made. That's what industry we operate in. So I've got a lot of fans on both sides. I've got respect for anybody who's got skin in the game. So I have a decent working relationship with Adam like anyone else. Richie's come in. He's new to it. Player, respect. A lot of time for him. He came in, got a couple of things wrong, and he's learning fast on his feet, and he's done things differently than what started off not being how we did it. And that's all I've really got to say in it. Would I have a problem if I saw Richie Myler? No. Is he welcome to come to our club when I'll FC players? Absolutely.
Fair play. Simon, my apologies. If you actually gave me your full name on a membership, I know you were a membership. You're just Simon on my list. But hey, well done, mate. Lovely to have you there. And hey, you still got a question asked. So everybody's a winner. Outstanding stuff. Right, back to the Sale family. Oh, you're in. And I tell you what, you talk about taking on Richie Myler as a horse. I would want to take on Ellie and Darcy. I really wouldn't. You have totally upset them by not having Ricky Latelli on for an extra contract, Derek. I hope you're going to hang your head in shame and apologise profusely.
Yeah, I mean, Ricky's an absolute diamond of a bloke. Uso, his family are beautiful. His wife, his kids, and it's a shame. I won't go into it too much, but there's a theme of the players that aren't at our club this year and who represents them. I'll put that out there, and some digging was done around that earlier in the press. There's only one player left at our club represented by that particular manager, and that was alleged to have so-called cancelled his contract that couldn't be cancelled anyway. So Ricky, unfortunately, we never got into talking to. A couple of those players were gone before we knew it, and we found out of our beloved Black and White Leopard Print fans. And then a couple we found out that we knew wanted to go to the NRL. We're in the NRL because those clubs announced it. So we never even got involved in any negotiations amongst those players. Assume that was the case with Ricky. Unfortunately, Ricky then finds out that, actually he's not, and nothing has been done with him. Would we have given Ricky another year's contract? Absolute 100% you would. He had a cage in his neck, which, you're going having done, Steph, but this year he's been ever present. His defence is prolific. There's no doubts in what he brings. I'm certain he'll get a Super League club. I think that's almost done. Whoever gets him gets a prized asset and a quality player. The big restriction in the game is the 7 overseas spots. I think it needs lifted if we want to improve the talent. If we could have 8, the fact he's not currently signed now, he'd be signed in the morning. But we've got 7 and we can't have any more.
Yeah, and you know what? I think he's, everybody was concerned when he went out with that injury. I think he's played some of his best rugby this year. Fair play to Ricky Latelli. What a champion fella. Outstanding. Jay Watt, I don't know if he's a light bulb, but anyway, let's go there. How long do you think it'll be until the Leopards reach a grand final? I mean, internally in the club, you must set out let's be fair, you've got to earn the right. It's tough, isn't it? But as the owner, Adrian Lamb as well, next season? Good man. Outstanding. Outstanding. There you go. You heard it here first. Next season, outstanding. Steve Cartledge, good friend of mine, Steve, so I'll ask his question. Surprise package for next year based on what you've seen this year. So who do you think could be the surprise package of next year?
You'd say Saints are going to do better than they did, but I don't think that would be a surprise if they did. It wouldn't be a surprise if Warrington went one better than they did. OKR obviously up there. I think it's a really tough question, that. I think Leeds will do a lot better than they've done. I just think I like Brad Arthur's style, what he's done this year, where he's not rewarded failure of not making playoffs, kept his players in right until the grand final and worked together as a group to get better. I think they've got some quality players. I think they showed it a little bit late in the day when he's arrived. I think him having a full pre-season and a year with them, it wouldn't surprise me, but I think they'll be the ones that improve the most on where they finished this last 2 seasons.
There you go. You heard it here first. Outstanding. Somebody's asking when Nicky Pape's statue's being built.
Well, as soon as he gives us permission when he signs his 5-year deal.
Absolutely. That's it. Get him signed up for 5 years, and I think most of Super League will be absolutely delighted. Any truth in the rumour that you'll play a game in Papua New Guinea?
It won't happen next year, but it's something we'd like to do.
Superb.
I'd love to play the Rhinos in South Africa as well, Leopards v Rhinos. There's a Super League game on the road. I think what Wigan and Warrington have shown is great in terms of getting into Vegas. I think we should look more about doing that.
Mark Firth, feedback is a gift. He wants a cold beer in the LSV next year. Don't know what's up with your taps, Derek, but that's something to say.
I'm in queue with him. I'll sign petition. Where is it?
There's a lot of petitions being signed tonight because you've had a lot of love for you being head of the Rugby Football League, my friend. So you know that's I think we're all getting behind that one. Right, I think I've got through most of them, to be fair, which is absolutely outstanding. Any final ones? Let's have a quick look.
Just on the LSV one, while you're looking on this side of things, there's a new leader in there at Leigh Sports Village. He's been brilliant these last few months. It's seen the shop move to the front. It's seen us get on there for captain's run. There's a lot of good positives going on inside the place, and access to drinks and the speed of that, and being able to pre-buy when you buy your ticket, or just go on and pre-buy beers that you get from a designated place, or soft drinks, and you literally just go because you've already got your QR code on your phone because you've pre-bought it and you're not queuing. So there's lots of other ideas we're thinking of, and making them colder, I will definitely be putting that one forward.
Happy days, happy days. And actually, I don't know who this is, Super League Raw. Is it true that the Super League Raw are going to be Degsy's special guest in the director's box next year? I don't know who's asked that. I haven't got a clue who's asked that, Degsy. I don't know who's put that in there. That's to put him on the spot like that is an absolute disgrace. But I actually agree with you. Whoever that person is, I would buy you one of those cold beers that Derek's going to serve up at the LSB for such a mention such as that. But anyway, that's brought a brilliant show to an end. Derek, we cannot thank you enough. That's the second time you've been on Super League Raw. Have you enjoyed it, my friend?
Yeah, it's been great. Sorry for putting you back a night and laying you down a bit, but it's been worth a good laugh. Enjoyed it.
Marvellous. And of course, you've got bragging rights over Mr. Sale. And Craig Forth says, will the second Super League Raw on tour be at the LSV? That could be a conversation to be had. We've got a lot of Be The Raw fans that would turn out in numbers to see us at the LSV.
First for that.
What's that one?
Got to get our beer cold first.
Absolutely, yeah. Get the beer cold. We're not coming if you haven't got cold beer. Absolutely not. But hey, look, Derek, I'm sure will return on a future date here at Super League Raw. On behalf of the entire community of Super League Raw members, thanks very much for joining us. For new people who've joined us tonight for the first time, do keep watching Super League Raw. It's we're passionate about this game. I think that's come through tonight. Nobody does it like we do it. So do join us for our next edition, which will be next Tuesday. We will be looking forward to the International England against Samoa. You can't beat a bit of weekly, as Steph always says. Derek, really appreciate your company. Greg, Steph, as always, you are superstars. We will see you all next Tuesday for more Super League Raw. And hey, get it in your diary, Degsy, just like Jaws, will return. We'll see you soon. Take care.